Hey guys, got Ryan7 again. This time with a review of a 1/44 scale high-grade Blue Duel Gundam from the Stargazer OVA series. So for colors, as its name would indicate, it's a quite blue machine, having two shades of blue, one dark blue, which are all the parts from the original Duel Gundam, of which this thing is of course a remold, and the dark blue is slightly darker than the blue of the Duel Gundam. Then we have a lighter blue, which is kind of grayish, and those are all the parts specific for the Blue Duel Gundam itself. Then the white of the Duel Gundam has become kind of darker, so in general the Blue Duel is a much darker machine than the Duel Gundam. Also, the gray here seems to also have kind of a bluish tint to it, or maybe that's just because there's so much blue going on with the rest of this machine. Then we also get gray for the hands, the joints, the accessories, and finally orange. But not nearly as much orange as you might be thinking, because the only orange part right now that's actually molded in plastic is this tiny piece right there. All of the other orange pieces come from this thing, the giant sticker sheet. And as you might have noticed already, most of them are on the Blue Duel specific parts, except for the ones on the shield. Which is nice, because with the original Duel Gundam, we didn't get any stickers at all. So yeah, at least they upgraded something. Then those are stickers. All of those orange bits and pieces are stickers. And I even didn't use these two because, well, I felt I applied enough stickers to this thing. Then we get giant blue stickers, which are supposed to go onto the Assault Shroud here on the back, which also isn't molded in the correct color. So yeah, this thing definitely suffers from Remould Syndrome. Then a few stickers that are understandable. We of course get the typical eye stickers. We get a nice metallic green one for the main camera. No sticker for the back camera, but you could of course always cut out your own there. And then one blue one here that goes over the crotch piece, because you know, that is a small part. Now the thing about those orange pieces is, when we look at one of its siblings, the Vert Buster, this thing did have a lot of small pieces molded in the correct color. So why they couldn't do it with the Blue Duel is beyond me, and kinda sad. But at the very least, with all the stickers applied, it is mostly color accurate. On to the articulation. The head goes a bit up, bit down, rotates around about that far until it starts hitting things to the sides. Then the arms, the massive arms, rotate around all the way just fine. But once you pull them up, you notice that they are hindered by the size of them. The main problem here is the Assault Shroud, which prevents this panel here from going upward. So if you were to remove it and have it as a normal Duel Gundam, it would be able to go up all the way. Then rotates around, bends at the elbow at one joint for 90 degrees. Hands, as always, on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. Then his weapon system up there. The funny thing is, this is actually on a ball joint, so it can wiggle around a bit. Rotate around as well, a bit forwards, like that, backwards a bit. And then the cannon here is just on a peg, so it goes up about that far. It is a bit awkward to get it completely right, and that ball joint there definitely does come into play. And just because of kind of the bulk of the shoulder, it seems like the cannon wasn't really designed to go forward by itself, and like you had to move the arm with it. Then the shield, if it's just pegged in normally, it rotates around about that far, but once you pull it out, you can rotate it around all the way if you'd want to. Then the waist rotates around about that far. Front skirts, molded together, can be separated, and finally we have an Assault Shroud with movable front skirts, and pretty damn good front skirts as well, because they don't hinder the Duel's movement at all. Then legs go out about that far, will rotate around, and just as with the Vert Buster, the hips now have been upgraded to have forwards and backwards movement. It's a pretty tight joint on mine, but you can get it to move a little bit. Then bend at the knees at two joints, not too bad, bit more than 90 degrees. And the feet go forwards until they hit. And the Assault Shroud armor backwards nicely on 2 joints. We have a hinge at the top, a ball joint at the bottom. And then the feet will also go side to side on that ball joint and rotate around once again on that ball joint. On to accessories, starting off with the beam rifle with a torpedo on there, which is unfortunately not removable. And when we put it in the hand, you will also notice that it does tend to go side to side quite a bit, just as with the original Duel. Fortunately, once we pull this out again, we do now get 2 beam guns, or 2 beam pistols, 1 in each arm. And these are connected to the arm itself, so they are going to be super secure once they are in the hands. I have to say, the holder looks quite bulky and not that great, but once the guns are out, man, they're very simple, but also very good looking. So sometimes less is indeed more. Then we get 2 beam sabers now mounted on the legs, combined with 2 clear beam sabers. And in they go. And just as with the beam pistols, these fit into the hands absolutely perfectly. And then when you have the railgun on the side, I must say the Blu Duel has a pretty impressive arsenal. There's one more thing we also get. This here can open up. And by open up, I mean you pull it out. Then you get a peg right there, which then slots back in there. And here you get a bunch of armor penetrators, for which you also get an extra hand, which is unfortunately molded in the wrong colors. Then you have to borrow one of the top halves from the other hands, and that's how this is going to work. So it's a quite nicely detailed hand. It's just a shame that they couldn't give it to us in the normal gray that the hands are supposed to be in. Then, as with a lot of the Gundam Seed Destiny era kits, we get the usual stand. Simply look at the bottom, remove this panel right there, and with that hole, you can simply stick them on the action base. And now the thing about this action base is you do have 2 stands, well, 2 poses you can put them on, standing upright, or this can also be put on the longer one to have a more forward-going position, or you can of course put it the way I have it now, 1 going up and 1 going forward. Now one thing I have to say is that unlike, for example, the Vert Buster, where the original Buster did not have an action-based connector, when we have a look at the crotch piece of the original Duel Gundam, that one did already have an action-based connector, so some props to the original Duel Gundam there. Then other pieces that we're getting in order to make ourselves an original Duel Gundam, the old front piece, connectors for the shields, because if you want to, you can still simply rip off the shield, rip off this, which is actually also just connected like a normal shield. So if you have another figure out there, if you have another Gunpla there, which has like the standard shield connector, you can simply give it to that machine if its arms are about the same size as the Duel Gundam. So that's also a really cool feature of this, well, of this getup here. You can simply give it to any machine you want. Then finally, we also get these 2 thingies here, which are for the chest vents, which have to be removed in order to click on the Assault Shroud armor. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? Kinda. For 1,600 yen, the Blu Duel is a very mixed bag. It's got some really cool stuff going on, like a lot of play value, looks great, and just with the Vert Buster, it has the very Duel feel, but it's still very different from the original Duel Gundam. I mean, a lot more massive, and even if you're just comparing the Assault Shroud versions, they're so different, and this one is definitely a lot better than the original Duel Gundam's Assault Shroud. I mean, there's a reason why I don't have the Assault Shroud on my Buster, except for the railgun. So in that aspect, the Blu Duel is definitely a cool deal. For 1,600 yen, you're getting a lot of stuff to play around with. But then again, on the less bright side, it does suffer from Remould Syndrome. A lot of orange stickers that could have been parts if they just included another runner. And once again, it's not just a problem of the time, because when you look at the Vert Buster, that thing did have small pieces molded into its new parts, so the Blue Duel could have done it. And then that of course leads to the conclusion that for 1,600 yen, you do have a lot of options. You can buy a slightly cheaper machine, which might be similarly awesome, or for that price you can buy yourself another massive machine, which might just be better than the Blue Duel. So really, it all depends on how much weight you attach to the various pros and cons. But at the end of the day, if you like the Blue Duel, this machine, well, this model kit is definitely for you. And finally, you might be wondering to yourself, should I buy the Blue Duel or the original Duel? Well, for 400 yen extra, there's really no competition here. The Blue Duel is superior in every way to the original Duel Gundam. For 400 yen, you're getting an extra stand and much better armor. I mean, the assault shroud of the Blue Duel is just infinitely better, and not just because it's better designed, well, how to put it, not just because it's better designed as a mobile suit, but also as a model kit. Because most importantly, the assault shroud of the normal Duel does not have movable front skirts and pretty severely hinders the movement of the Duel Gundam. That is not the case with the Blue Duel. And then it's also simply much more massive feeling and just also better integrated with the Blue Duel itself, though that is in part thanks to the way it's designed. And finally, it of course also helps that the Blue Duel is slightly upgraded thanks to the slightly better hip design. So definitely go for the Blue Duel if you're not sure which one to get. And just don't forget, both can be built as the standard Duel Gundam. So for size comparisons, first of all, here is next to its teammates, the Vert Buster and the Strike Noir. Then here it is next to the Ale Strike Gundam, the modern high-grade Cosmic Era one of course, and once again next to the original Duel Gundam. And finally, here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that's all for this review, and see you guys next time.